Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And good morning at ya. Strange light outside. The sun appears to be shining. Perhaps momentarily, one never knows. Anyway, it be the 17th of the 7th month. And guys, I'm feeling beaten up today. I just am. Sometimes whatever inner resilience I possess when digesting the news of the day somehow inoculates me on occasion. I don't know if that sentence made any sense. I forgot where it began. But all of it was an attempt to tell you that I am just sort of today. I really am. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted by this. I was talking to a friend yesterday whose wife simply cannot tolerate any talk of any of what is going on. And my friend is very interested, so it's rough. I'm envious of those who can avoid this for their own mental health, but most of us can't, although we can take little breaks. Ay. So the oddest story I saw, well, I don't know if that's true, but one of the stories I saw this morning that, I don't know, made me sigh, made me wince, made me whatever, was a story of two Fox News reporters becoming engaged to two Pennsylvania congressmen. So it goes without saying that would be two Pennsylvania Republican congressmen, because I did say that the reporters in question were Fox News. So yeah, did you know that? I don't know, and who cares? But while we might find the Republican congressman from around these parts loathsome, might be too strong a word, but perhaps not. Some find them, I guess, charming and worth marrying. God Almighty! I do know of both congressmen. One of them from around here, Reschenthaler, right? He represents maybe some of you, and he's become engaged. God bless him. After a very messy divorce, we might add, to some Fox News woman who I almost called her a babe, but I pulled back and then obviously decided not to. Anyway, I guess in covering her beat, she came upon Guy and found him irresistible. So there you have it. He has recently proposed to Brooke Singman. And damn right after he did that, didn't Republican Congressman from Pennsylvania, Brian Fitzpatrick, I think, wed, he's a little bit ahead of things, his Fox News babe, Jackie Heinrich, or Heinrich, I don't know. So there you have it. I don't know what any of that means. The story went on from there into uh, wondering about a reporter who marries the person that they are covering, what that does to the reporter's career, and the lines that must be drawn. And man, those lines have shifted totally. Um, totally. And if you're a Fox News reporter, what's the strangeness or what's the difference of being a Fox News reporter in bed with the Republicans you're covering, whether it be literal or figurative? You get my drift? What the hell difference does that make? So, I don't know. Um, there was also something that I saw that creeped me out, and I'm not sure why, and I don't know that my reaction would be shared by any of you, but I saw a short clip of a podcast that is a regular podcast. I think it's called IMO, in my opinion. And I believe it's a podcast that is done by Michelle Obama and her brother. And this is, a regular podcast that I do not um, listen to or watch. But the reason it became newsworthy, I guess, yesterday, is that their guest was the former president, Barack Obama, and the husband of and brother in law of the host. So I just, the reason Barack Obama was on was obvious. He was on to again continue to attempt to dispel the rumors that the Obama's marriage is on the rocks. And the reason I reacted negatively to seeing this is is that if anyone should know, uh, it's the Obamas. That any attempt to stop the rumor mill when it's up and running in this day and age, especially if you're a prime target for whole swaths of the social media sphere, is doomed. It only calls more attention to. And so they did lame little jokes, and they seemed uncomfortable. At least he did. And I was uncomfortable. I saw just a few seconds of it. But here's what my takeaway is: I don't have a clue what the state of that marriage is. It could be wonderful. They have been open, again, I don't know why, in the past of having gone to couples therapy. Um, they have exhibited throughout their very public lives a very strong, I think, marriage. But no one ever knows. None of us have a clue. You don't even always know with people you actually know how their marriages are, in fact, doing. Um, and so the fact that these two media savvy folks would think that they were helping themselves by doing this is, I mean, astonishing to me, frankly. And I guess the genesis of all of this, that they're getting divorced or are separated stuff, was her absence at Trump's inauguration when Barack showed up, but she did not, and also her absence at Jimmy Carter's state funeral. And I must say, again, my reaction to those absences was, in the first place, regarding Trump's inauguration, good for her. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how horrific it would have to be to feel compelled by your position to attend that event, and that she said, I just won't. Screw it. It's fine with me. It's fine with me for her to exhibit, contempt, uh, whatever, for that man and his moment. Um, but I must say that when she was a no-show at Jimmy Carter's funeral, I did not react in a positive way to that. My reaction was not, why, they must be divorced or their marriage is in trouble. No, it was, she just didn't want to go. And she is now of the mind that we don't own her because of a job she once held, of First Lady, because she ain't anymore and she's done with it. I get that, but I'm enough of a, I don't know. I think Jimmy Carter deserved her presence and a show of respect. So I did find her absence in that regard. I I was not happy with it. I disagreed, but I understand. I mean, what she says and has said in her defense is, I'm living my life. But that's such a American current kind of a thing now, that we get to live our own lives, and part of that American ethic, I think, has shown itself to get us into not a great place, because it pleasing ourselves being the big ethic, being our authentic selves, ends up, I think, creating a lot of selfishness. And the understanding that sometimes you do things that you don't want to do. You really don't want to do. Or it takes you away. I think she was on vacation. It takes you away from something you really want to do. But I just did not agree with her decision on that one. Even though, again, it would have placed her, as you can remember, her poor husband, who did dutifully show up, ended up seated next to Donald Trump. And they were amiably whispering to each other. And one can only imagine how Michelle's presence would have put the kibosh on that little interaction between the two former presidents. I don't know. I don't know. And that's the thing. I don't know. Neither does anyone else. And constant speculation of other people's private lives, I guess, is a lot of money's getting made in this culture on that kind of thing. But again, I'm surprised that they waded in to it. And he, by the way, is it just me, or does he look incredibly skinny? And the skinniness and the white hair just makes him look frail to me. I'm sure he's not. I want Barack to put on some weight. I do. Is Michelle feeding him? I don't worry about it. Okay. Do I seem to be avoiding big subjects? Well, hell, I mean, to me, that's my day job now. I mean, I'm trying to get better and better at it, and it, it's how I see my job in large part. Obit, Connie Francis, ladies and gentlemen, what are the odds that this program would find itself speaking of Connie Francis twice within a few months span? A woman who faded from our popular culture a half century ago and somehow popped up a few months back, and the result of some becoming in her late 80s a TikTok phenomenon when some song she'd recorded, which nobody who was around when she was and singing like me, I mean, I remember her well and her songs. Never heard of this song, but things being what they are, they exist and they somehow rise from the dead. So zombie songs all of a sudden show up, and you know, 7, 8 generations hence, like go wild for some reason over them, and she became a TikTok phenom and got a lot of media for a second, and was tickled and was thrilled, and then she died. And I just want to say, I'm glad that Connie had that last flurry of attention, because it really it was she didn't even know what TikTok was. She didn't even know the phrase going viral. When she was told she'd gone viral on TikTok, she initially thought that she'd contracted some illness. But there it is. So I was reading her obit, and good God in heaven, what a I mean, I'm not even talking about the music. I'm not talking at all about the music. What a fraught existence this woman had. I mean, I, Jeez. I mean, yeah, Conchetta Francanero, born in Jersey, Italian Jersey, Italian American Jersey girl. And man, her father seems like he was a huge factor in her life, and I can't tell for good or ill, but he was there throughout. And I guess one of the great loves of her young life was the singer Bobby Darin, who was, I mean, he was good. I mean, I would put him in above her, but what do I know? Um, and she was romantically involved. So these two big singers, even back in the day, that happened then too. They were romantically involved, and then her father put the kibosh on it, and he put the kibosh on it by literally running Bobby Darin off the property with a gun held on him. He chased this major star away from his daughter while holding a loaded gun. So there went Bobby. And I don't know. It just like one, you know how some obits read like, one extraordinary accomplishment to the next, and she had her share. But hers, if you take it all in, just seems to read like one. Oh, God, I feel for her. She does, she decides, it shows how nothing much has changed. Back in the day, she decided to have unnecessary surgery. Um, she was, I'm not sure why she did it, but she had surgery done on her nose. Probably someone told her, you know, you might be even more popular if you did something with that schnoz of yours, Connie. So she went in for, yeah, a nose job. This is in 1967, so she would have been still very young, right? She and already, successful. She People loved her music, even with whatever nose that was she had. She goes in to get her nose fixed, and the surgery screwed her nose up, not necessarily visually, but it says in her obit that the surgery on her nose left her unable to sing in air conditioned rooms, which made it impossible for her to perform in Las Vegas, where there was a lot of money to be made, and most clubs. And then she tried to have corrective surgery to correct the corrective surgery a decade later, and that surgery ended with her losing her voice entirely. She couldn't sing at all. Don't ask me why. And all of this pales to 1974, after performing in Long Island. She was raped at knife point at a motel, and that assault threw her into a tailspin. One can imagine back then that being raped, which is a horror always, but then there was the sense that it was always somehow the woman was very much alive. And so it would have created for her the shame, and then the trauma, emotional trauma, the physical trauma, whatever. She tailspinned. The obit says, descended into a nightmare of paranoia, suicidal depression, and drug abuse, and eventually her gun-toting father stuck her in a mental hospital. Um, so I mean, I just, she was, she was married like 4 times, all ended in divorce. Um, she just didn't have a good life, which is why I'm so happy that literally a few months ago she got a bit of a thrill again and did enjoy having people talk about her in a good sense and having a whole new generation of young people love her voice and love her music. But Connie Francis is dead. That's my obit. All right. I think I'm screwed now. So Trump trying to he's what do you think? Is he losing his skill at I mean, because the usual bag of tricks does seem to be failing him somewhat with this Epstein thing. And to have the left media and his right wingers media all clamoring on, for the same thing. Let's see those files. It is something we haven't seen. He's backed himself into some kind of a corner here. And when you look at like what was the news today, this morning on the commercial media, they always fall for the whatever the latest shiny object is. They're always the ones immediately distracted by whatever distraction Trump comes up with. So they're all over this story of our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who's figured uh, substantially in this Epstein fiasco. She's off to Alcatraz. No, not the alligator one, the real Alcatraz off the coast of California um, for who the hell knows? I mean, she's going to have a news conference, she said there. There had been some mutterings of the Trump administration saying they wanted to reopen Alcatraz as because no one escapes from Alcatraz. The reality is it's there's no way you reopen Alcatraz. So this is just bullshit. Bullshit. Look over here, look over here. We got Alcatraz for you. And then the other one that blew my mind is that Trump, with all the stuff he's got to deal with, and I'm not just talking about Epstein, I'm talking about the Middle East, Ukraine, uh, running a country, he has found time to pressure Coca-Cola to switch its recipe from using high fructose corn syrup to using cane sugar. Now that sounds like something that RFK Jr. must have stuck in his ear somewhere. But Coke apparently has capitulated. So the Coke that you love and have been drinking forever, the original recipe there, the high fructose corn syrup, Coke is going to stop doing it and is going to instead make your Coke with, and this could like set off his base. It could set off, this is the kind of thing that Americans, that's it. That is one step too far. Actually, what it'll do is make Coke's already making this kind, has already used this recipe. Because if you've ever seen Mexican Coke advertised or sold, because it is, I think Giant Eagle carries it. It's because some people really prefer Mexican Coca-Cola because Mexican Coca-Cola has cane sugar, not high fructose corn syrup. So, American Coke is just going to be Mexican Coke. Oh my God. Sort of like, the Gulf of Mexico and the Gulf of America is one and the same. Just one and the same. So just saying. I don't know really what that's about, but that was one of the shiny objects that got thrown out there. And I came across this because it did interest me. Now, I'm going to tell you something about Coca-Cola and cane sugar that odds are you haven't heard before. Okay, get ready. I aim to inform. Coca-Cola has also made this recipe and sold it in America under not calling it Mexican Coke because they put it out every year and it's carried in kosher supermarkets. Not that Coke isn't kosher, Coke is kosher. Religious Jews drink Coke. But when Passover comes around, really religious Jews won't drink Coke because high fructose corn sugar is made from corn. And if you're a very religious Jew following things to the letter of the law, you would during the 8 days of Passover avoid ingesting uh, certain grains and, and certain legumes. Believe me, I don't know because I don't. To me, if you just say you can't eat bread for a week, that's good enough for me. I'm not going to go crazy. So, what happened is I guess this happened a few years ago. Some rabbi, some tech savvy rabbi, did a video uh, standing in front of a display of these four Passover Coca Cola bottles, which I guess had yellow caps. And so this rabbi is holding up this Coca Cola with a yellow cap in this TikTok video, and I think it was on Instagram too. And he's just explaining to his followers about how even Coca-Cola is making this for Orthodox Jews during Passover because it contains cane sugar, not high fructose corn syrup. And the video was intended to, he even said at one point, and some people actually like this, the taste of this better, and think it's actually slightly healthier for you. Well, what happened was that rabbi holding up the Coke hits Instagram, hits TikTok, and the anti Semites go berserk. Within 48 hours, the video had racked up more than, I hate this, that it has this number, 6 million views, because that's usually the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. All of a sudden, 6 million views, and it was all because of anti Semites and far right influencers on X glomming on to the rabbi's thing about the Coke for Passover. And you're asking, what the hell would what? Here's what they glommed onto. They said, look at this. Here it is. Coca-Cola. Did you know this? is making a superior version of its product for Jews only. And if that doesn't show how Jews control everything, run everything, get the lion's share, the best of everything, here it is. A chosen beverage for the chosen people. This is just classic, crazed anti-Semitism. Never mind that when this Coke comes out, it doesn't say for Jews only. Anyone can buy it. Just like they can buy Mexican Coke. It's not new. It's not necessarily superior. That's a matter of taste. But it shows, really, how anything can become a flashpoint to sell hate in these crazed times. But the reality is that Coke is going to become, you're going to get the superior Jewish Coke, whether you want it or not. Coming soon. I don't know. I didn't see anywhere where they said the changeover is going to happen. Don't have a clue. And see, that, all of a sudden I see a million things in my, not a million, I exaggerate only slightly, but got the guys going on chat. And that shows how this Coke thing, more than the Alcatraz thing, was probably a good shiny object to throw out there to get people talking. Because Trump knows that people want something else to talk about. He knows he exhausts us. And when all the attention that he seeks turns into attention he doesn't want, he's got to find something else to grab our attention. And this Coke thing, I guess, is just brilliant. Laura writes, well, maybe the cost will go down now for Mexican Coke. Well, why would somebody even, yeah, because Mexican Coke costs more. It's true. But, well, that'll be interesting, the price point, if it's the same product. Although others are saying, no, the price of Coke's going to go up. When do the prices come down? I'm asking. And Laura says, and also about Mexican Coke, it's only sold in glass bottles. Is that just here, or in Mexico might it be in cans? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying. But I found that since everyone's now talking about this sugar cane Coke, and it does taste, it is a different taste. Any Coke lover will note a difference. So it's bound to get a whole bunch of people worked up, no doubt about it. I wonder if there'll be like a black market somewhere for Coke made with high fructose corn syrup. Or if they can't just put it out, that's where they could charge more money. For people wanting the old stuff, the high fructose corn syrup stuff. I don't know. Anyway, you see, how much easier is that to talk about? Okay, so back to Trump. Heather Cox Richardson, may she live a long life. She's a really important person in chronicling this world, this time that we're living in. Hang on, I've got to find my Heather Cox Richardson thing. She wrote today something I did not know about Trump while he was here in Pittsburgh. There's a few things I want to talk about. When he was here in Pittsburgh, and I hadn't seen this, but I'll just read to you what she says. He fell asleep on stage at this Energy and Innovation Summit. He fell asleep on stage. Now, that is not anything new, that he falls asleep in public all the time. But he did, in Pittsburgh, fall asleep. It was late afternoon, and people are talking about stuff he doesn't understand, and it's boring as hell. And he did. He fell asleep. You really stop and think of, I can't even fall asleep when I'm in my bed by myself. Can you imagine being able to fall asleep knowing that everyone, there's a whole room full of people, there are cameras, and that everyone's eyes are on you and you can fall asleep? Wow! You're either one hell of a good sleeper or there's something wrong. So, anyway, he turns out he came to Pittsburgh and he fell asleep in front of everybody on stage. And at the event, he told a story, which I will share with you here, that has been judged to be entirely made up. Here it is. Trump told an odd imaginary tale, claiming that his uncle, an MIT professor, had taught Ted Kaczynski, the Unibomber. Trump recounted, he went on from there. So my uncle, the MIT professor, he taught the Unibomber at MIT. And then he recounted a conversation that he had with this professor uncle of his about Ted Kaczynski, the Unibomber. I guess we're going to spare you that. But Richardson says, in fact, Kaczynski didn't go to MIT, and Trump's professor uncle died more than a decade before Kaczynski became Kaczynski, somebody we all knew of and spoke of. So there's no way that Trump's uncle taught him, nor that he would have mentioned to his nephew, Donald, that he had once taught the Unibomber. So can you imagine? You go before all these people and you tell lies that can be proven to be lies, and then you fall asleep. It just And also, another thing that Trump did recently that I haven't mentioned, but if you see the video, it's like, oh my God. So when he got brought by the World Cup this weekend he was there for this championship game, and he was given the honor of handing the championship trophy to the winning team, which he did. And then he stayed there he handed it over. The team, the players who had just, worked their tails off, running up and down to get this trophy, wanted to do what we all know players do after getting the trophy. They wanted to jump around and pass it around and celebrate. And Trump just stood there wanting to be at the center. And he didn't comprehend that, no, my job here is you hand off this thing and then you back away and let the players have fun. Never occurred to him. And he had to be, I don't know who was the head of FIFA, had to just sort of pull him from behind. It made Trump look like an idiot, like the narcissistic idiot that he is. So, okay. And then he comes to Pittsburgh, falls asleep, and tells lies. And also, what was it, yesterday? He went after, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, and all that. And one of the things, and I remember when he said it, I thought, huh? And thank you, Heather Cox Richardson, for telling me my reaction was correct. Trump was going on about how terrible, idiotic, stupid, the worst Fed chair ever, Jerome Powell. I can't believe he was ever appointed. I cannot believe who would appoint this idiot. He appointed Powell. I mean, guys, you cannot make this up. Watchman is not buying that Coca-Cola has agreed to this. Didn't I see they did? Or, as Watchman suggests, if this is coming from Trump, you're believing it? Trump says a lot of things, he says, that are bull. Does anybody know if if Coke has, it would be a pretty quick turnaround for a major product. Yeah, it is true. Um, but it is definitely intended and rather successfully done as a diversion from the Epstein crap. Yeah. Okay, but before we're done with Trump, can I just get into something that Mary sent me? Two pictures. And here again, I don't, now the one I know is true because I've seen it all over the place. And I even saw the Mary sent me a still shot. I saw video where the videographer actually zooms in to Trump's hand to show that on his hand, covering much of his hand, is clearly a bad makeup job. Anyone who does makeup knows that at the edges, you blend. You blend it into this skin around it so that it's not just some, if you're covering something up, you don't just splotch the cover up right there so it's obvious. You fuzz it up around the edges so it blends into the skin around it. Anyway, so whoever, it's like his orange makeup. It's just unbelievable how it just ends, right? I mean, how right, if you ever look like right under his ears and his neck, how he's white. I mean, there's like white skin, and then there's just these orange lines that they don't even. I guess he puts it on himself. I don't know. I don't understand. Beyond belief. Um, Rust Belt said, well, we don't know if your partner's a reliable source. My partner said Coke has not confirmed that they are doing this. Well, until we find out that your partner doesn't work at Fox News, we'll have to hold that in abeyance. for a while. I don't know. Wow. Jesus H. God help us. So where was I? Oh yeah. So there's all this stuff going on about what's that? What's he covering up on his hand? And somebody was saying it's maybe it looks like he maybe had a needle stick in a vein in your hand, to maybe get some IVs in there, and it might have created a big. I mean, because I have veins that like blow out every time they try to stick needles in me, which happens often, and yeah, you end up just like a walking bruise. So it could be it was covering up some bruise. Um, but I mean, these pictures make their way around because they feed the curiosity about the state of his health. But the other picture that Mary sent, I found truly, I didn't find the hand thing big deal. I mean, I truly concerning if in fact that's a true picture. Sent me a picture of what looks to be Trump's ankles. It could be anybody's ankles. Um, and they are grossly swollen, like you know, like major heart disease swollen, and that would be harder to cover up. But there's no way of knowing that that's his ankle. Those are his ankles. So I'm not buying that. But geez, that I mean, you know, all the experts on X are saying, geez, looks like congestive heart failure. But guys, again, these are all distractions. Just because you want the guy dead, we can pass around as many pictures as we want, but it doesn't prove anything. Oh, okay. What else we got here? The National Guard. Dear God. I've been wondering that story, they're still there in LA. You know how that was just like 24/7 coverage and then we always move on. But that National Guard is still under federal control and is still in LA. They're still deployed there. And there was a story about their morale. And I'm sure you won't be surprised to learn it is really bad. Okay, listen just to this. The California National Guard, which is the guard we're talking about, had 72 soldiers whose enlistment was set to expire during this deployment. 2 of the 72 have already said, okay, my enlistment's expired, I'm out of here. And they've left. They were watching the clock, they are gone. And a whopping 55 others of the 70 left, 55 have indicated to the Guard they will be gone as soon as the deployment ends. They're out. Now, you could say, well, maybe that's, they're not lifers, blah, 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 blah. But if in fact this is true, and those 55 do leave, that would be huge because the National Guard's usual retention rate is 60%. If these guys go as they say they're going to, it would be a retention rate of 21%. That's not good for the Guard's readiness, especially in a state that needs this Guard because of the crazy stuff that's always happening in California, like fires and floods and stuff like that, in a time when FEMA has been disabled, right? That that's not good. I'm just saying that everywhere Trump goes, everything he does is harmed, destroyed in some way. This article also says, I think it's from the Washington Post, that a majority, and this isn't surprising, a majority of the California National Guard's 18,000 members are based in Southern California. And about 40% of them, 40% of them are Hispanic. Can you imagine? You're a Hispanic member of the California National Guard, and the racist Trump administration takes you with your governor loudly protesting and suing, takes you and tells you to round up your neighbors and cousins. Unbelievable. Okay. Um, what do I got? What do I got? What do I got? What do I got? Do you know what a groper is? I I admit that there are things that go on now in this world that I just throw up my hands and say I can't. I just can't keep up, and I'm not interested. But I did read this, and a groiper is are the right winger neo-Nazi types. They call themselves groipers after their little emblematic um, mascot that looks like a frog. It looks like Pepe the Frog, only it's menacing looking, and that's called Groiper. Groiper is the mascot of these neo Nazis, and they call themselves the Groiper movement. And their major head of this movement is a jerk named Fuentes, who is the white nationalist, anti Semite, uh, right wing creep, white supremacist Hitler fan, um, who dined with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, and whose a lot of whose followers voted for Donald Trump, and a lot of them have insinuated themselves into the Trump administration. And there was this big article in the Sunday Times about them. And oh my God, it was frightening. It is frightening. Um, the article says, look, you get about the Groypers. They're it's neo-Nazism, textbook misogyny. They're the ones who just own these young men through memes and X posts, and their far right content has been dubbed slopulism, not populism, just slopulism. And they're increasingly emboldened by Trump and his administration. Um, an NPR report, oh, sorry, NPR, like we didn't know that was going to happen. An NPR report identified there's probably more, three administration officials with clear ties to the Groyper movement. In fact, it can be shown that the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, and the press secretary for the Defense Department, Kingsley Wilson, are part of the groper movement. It's mind-blowing and really scary. I will share one little thing and then I'll leave you. The Trump administration's embrace of the groper's trolling style, like Trump does, signals a real change. It's an acknowledgement of sorts that even if the White House isn't fully on board with all of their issues, the future of this GOP is being built on TikTok and on Twitter. Memes are how you do politics now. It's how you reach people, especially young people. Intellectualism doesn't have a chance anymore. Real change is coming through memes and entertainment and jokes. Like a runaway train, the Republican Party is barreling toward a future in which posting is politics. Ask Donald Trump, the president. Have you noticed that every major thing that administration does is announced not in some official capacity, but announced on Truth Social in a post? It's best to understand and to realize what's happening right under our noses. Just saying. All right, maybe by Monday when we talk next, we'll know if this Coke thing is real or not. I sort of hope it is. I don't know why. Toodaloo, guys.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.